changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your Chicken Soup for the Soul. I've got more funny stories for you from Chicken Soup for the Soul. Laughter's always the best medicine. And today we're talking about husbands and wives, and with wedding season approaching, this seems appropriate. Couples love to tell those slightly embarrassing, hilarious stories about each other, as do their kids. So I'm going to start today with a story by Sharon Pearson about a mistake that her father made that has become one of her family's favorite memories. So Sharon says that her parents' marriage was still going strong after 64 years. And one afternoon, her mom enthusiastically told her that her father was taking her on a date that night. They were going to the movies to see Midnight in Paris. And how romantic was that? And then she invited Sharon to come along. Sharon says, in their 80s, my parents were a lot of fun, and one never knew what might happen on their outings. My dad, who is a bit like the absent-minded professor, often made my mom and me laugh because of his unintended escapades. Well, they got to the movie theater a bit late, so Sharon's mother went inside to get seats while Sharon and her dad stood in line for popcorn. So when they got inside, the theater was already dark, but Sharon managed to spot her mother, and then she says, I took my father's arm, and we slowly and carefully sidestepped down the row. I ended up sitting between Mom and Dad because I had the popcorn. Dad was sandwiched between myself and a woman who glared at us for making noise as we settled in. Just as we became engrossed in the story, the woman sitting next to my dad suddenly stood up, muttered something under her breath, and hastily sidestepped all the way down to the farthest seat in the row. Sharon's father stared after her and then said to Sharon, wasn't that your mother? To which Sharon replied, Dad, Mom's on the other side of me. Oops, said her dad. And then he whispered in Sharon's ear, I put my hand on her leg and squeezed it. Sharon whispered to her mother what had happened, and then their seats started shaking as they laughed hysterically, but as quietly as possible. All Sharon's dad could say was, are you laughing at me again? Our second story is by Segoina Tansman, who says that her husband loves to get things going, in use, put together, but without ever following any instructions or directions. She says he's one of those guys who's always overriding the GPS, so she hears a lot of make a legal U-turn, make a rerouting. Usually it all works out okay for her husband, but one night it didn't. And when Segoina sent in this story, I actually heard hysterical laughter from two of the women in our office who had just read it. So the night went like this. Segoina wanted to get in the jacuzzi with a glass of cold Chardonnay, but her husband didn't feel like it. So she did, and when she went back inside after her soak, she found him pointing at the inversion table in the corner of their bedroom and asking, how do you like this thing? She said she loved it. Now, if you don't know what an inversion table is, it's this kind of flat board that you climb onto with your head up and your feet down, and you secure your feet in place, and then you tip back like it's a seesaw so that now your head is facing down and your feet are up in the air. You're hanging upside down with your feet safely held on, and this whole thing helps to stretch out your spine. Segoina, who is under 5 feet tall, said to her husband, if you want to use it, you'll need to adjust the foot bar for your height. Oh, plus you'll want to read the instructions. The first time you use it, they recommend only going halfway to a horizontal position. It takes a little getting used to before you fully invert yourself to hang upside down. She even demonstrated to him how to use it, cautioning him along the way. But she could tell he wasn't really listening because for him, following directions was like cheating. Segoina says, seconds later, with no questions asked, he was on the machine and flipping himself upside down. She had told him to only go halfway until he got the hang of it, but no, he went the whole way. And then, while he really didn't get the hang of it, he was hanging. She went off to take a shower, but then she heard a loud commotion and a lot of thumping. She ran back into the bedroom, and there he was, starting to panic and sounding pretty unhappy and uncertain as he asked, "How do I get up?" And she says, "The truth is, hanging upside down for prolonged periods is a well-known torture technique." Well, now she didn't know what to do. Should she stop and take a video that would get a lot of clicks? Should she run down and open the door for the paramedics? She says, "I'm not a physics whiz, but I know a thing or two about leverage. I only had two options, pull from the top or push from the bottom. I couldn't reach his feet from the top because they were too high. He is a full foot taller than I. I could also tell that if I attempted to straddle his head to try to use my weight as leverage to push him upright, I'd likely only reach his knees. Remember, he was upside down and I was naked. The best I could hope for was to end up suspended horizontally in some kinky Kama Sutra position that I have to explain to the paramedics when they arrived." Well, by now, her husband was becoming disoriented. When she told him to bend his knees, he didn't actually know where they were or how to bend them. Finally, she got him to bend his knees, and that rocked him enough so that he wasn't totally upside down, and she was able to seesaw the inversion table back into an upright position and free him from the ankle restraints. And boy, was she laughing. She was in hysterics. It's been years now, but he still doesn't think it's funny. Not a bit. I'm Amy Newmark. Thanks for listening today. If you want to learn more about our new books and everything else going on here at Chicken Soup for the Soul, you could join the 2 million people who follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or X. You could also visit our website, chickensoup.com, and there you can learn more about this fun new book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Laughter's Always the Best Medicine, which you will find at many big box stores, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and other booksellers. And I do hope you'll come back for our next episode, which is called Technology is Not Your Friend. And I'll be sharing stories from a couple of men who relate how technology led them astray in a rather embarrassing manner.